Hey guys, I am back. We are here for another garden update video. It has been a really long time since I posted anything on this. I've been working. I've been a little busy, and I think you'll see why I've maybe not had as much time to make videos as I did in the past. You see, when I last filmed a video, my garden looked like this. You maybe remember me introducing some of my plants, but now, well, it looks like this. Yeah, it's a lot of work. Why don't I show you around and show you some of the improvements I've made to the place? So I'm going to do things a little bit differently this time. Since I'm going to show you all kinds of different things, I figured I could just kind of walk and narrate as I go. You'll see the biggest thing that's changed is this giant fence that I've put around here. It is, I don't know, I estimate around 1,000 square feet, this whole area. And this fence is just made from some wire, some T-posts, and of course some wooden beams that I've put in the ground. They're not cemented in or anything like that, so they'll probably only last a few years, but this is hopefully going to keep some of the major pests out and rabbits and stuff like that while the garden gets established. Now, this wire across the top, I just had some extra wire laying around, so I put this up here. Probably I'll hang some stuff from it in the fall or winter to keep the deer from jumping over, because this would not be a very difficult jump for them. So I'm going to put some stuff there. Hopefully that'll prevent them from coming through, maybe some string or something like that, but we'll see. The biggest task of this whole thing was this gate here, and it's not perfect. You can tell this is, it gets a little wider on that end. It's probably because I didn't cement the posts into the ground, but hey, you got to do what you got to do. And now the bunnies stay out of the garden. Let's come on in. So right now, most of this is still grass. I'm trying to, sheet mulch all of it and put down wood chips, and I'll probably be planting more plants in this area. But in time, my hope is that the whole thing is going to look kind of like this, with a mix of tall trees and shrubs, and I've got annual plants mixed in here and things like that. And so you can see, got a little bit of this corner to mulch still, and then the rest of it, it'll be, hopefully by the end of the year, I can get the rest of it done. This is pretty cool. On the entrance, you've got this nice big arch here, and eventually when I can get my hands on one, I'm going to put a grapevine over here that's going to climb up this way. And on this side, we have something called hardy kiwi. Hardy kiwi is a vining plant that has little tiny fruits that are just like kiwis. They're just small and edible. You don't have to take off the skin. So that will hopefully vine over the top of this arch, and it'll be really, really cool next year when this thing really takes off. This wild looking part of the food forest, this is the oldest section. This is where I began. That's the original apple tree that was right in the middle of it. Here's the pawpaw that was next to it. And then I've got all kinds of plants growing underneath it. I've got another 1, 2, 3, 4 comfrey plants over here, and there's several of those. They're all over the place. Here's another one. There's another one I planted back there, and another one there. I've talked about comfrey on other videos. It's a dynamic accumulator, and it's really cool. You can chop it and drop it underneath any other trees like the apple trees and stuff, and it gives all of its nutrients to the other trees. It's really, really useful. Most of the support plants here have a very specific purpose. This right here, this is a new one. This is yarrow. Yarrow is a beneficial insect attractor, and I've seen lots of bugs loving these little flowers, which is great. Down here is lemon mint, and I know you're not supposed to put mint in your garden because it is very aggressive, but in this case I want it to be aggressive because it suppresses weeds, so there's not nearly as much weed pressure under this tree, so I don't have to weed down here as much. But B, this lemon mint is a great beneficial insect attractor, and there's all kinds of bugs that just love the flowers here. This guy right here is it's an Amorpha false indigo, I think is what it's called. I think I planted it way too close to the apple tree, and if it ever really starts competing, I will go ahead and just trim it down. But this guy is a nitrogen fixer, so it pulls nitrogen out of the air and then puts it down into its roots, and eventually the apple tree will be able to take advantage of all that. I managed to get some milkweed in the ground. I started it from seed, and most of it died because I did it way too early, but threw these guys in the ground. They were barely struggling along, and now here they are. So no idea if this will actually attract any monarchs, but that's the hope. This guy is my blackberry, which is going crazy this year. It's amazing. This started out as one tiny little plant, and now I had to put up a full-on trellis to keep the vines from going too crazy. Every time one of these vines hits the ground, it starts putting down roots and becomes an entirely different plant. Got some research to do on how best to prune these guys, but it's coming along. And as you can see, there's so much fruit on these vines, at least compared to last year. I didn't have any last year. So I'm really excited to try out some blackberries from my own garden. So as it stands right now, I have 1, 2, 3 apple trees, 1, 2, 3 pear trees, 3 pawpaw trees. In certain parts of the garden, when I've got a little bit of light, I have put in some things like, this is a zucchini, and I think there's actually one to harvest right now. Let's get it. Oh yeah, look at that bad boy. Nice. So I throw in some annuals alongside the perennials. Like here we've got a sour cherry tree, and over here is an apple tree. But in the middle we've got kale and some romaine and red leaf lettuce and stuff like that, which is all kind of going to seed, as you can tell. These 2 plants right here are actually, if you go to Grace Church and you saw my sermon back in December, I used planting little seedlings as an illustration in the video sermons that we did. These are 2 of the 3 plants that I planted in those videos. And I don't know, this has got to be some kind of sermon illustration, but now this thing is loaded with flowers, which are going to all have tons of seeds. Each one of these plants could easily become hundreds and hundreds of others. In these raised beds, I've just been kind of experimenting with some stuff. Here, I've got a whole bunch of bunny greens, things that the bunnies like to eat for dinner. And then over here, I've done broccoli and cauliflower, which I let go way too long and didn't harvest in time. So it all went to flower. This is pretty much a waste, complete waste. But it'll go into our compost and I'm sure it'll be useful. The other broccoli I harvested in time. This one, I let it go a little too long. You can still eat these, they just don't taste quite as good. But this is so cool. This is what happens to broccoli if you don't harvest it. Isn't that crazy? Here I've got some Brussels sprouts. This bed is just an absolute riot of weeds and also things that I planted. I put cilantro and dill and parsley and mustard and all that in here, and spinach and beets, and I don't even know what's going on anymore. It's pretty much a mess. This is going to be a really big experiment for me. I'm growing mustard, and you can't tell what in the world is going on now, but these were really big, beautiful red leaf plants, and now they've completely gone to seed. And these pods are kind of like little beans. They're full of these little seeds, and the mustard seeds in there, you can grind those up and turn them into actual mustard. And so that is what I'm trying to do here. I just have to wait for these to dry out, and then I can harvest. I added some new strawberry plants here and then over there somewhere, but my original strawberry plants are over here and they're doing incredibly well. This whole mound right here, these are all strawberries on the ground. They're all branching out and putting out new runners to become new plants. But this all started from one little plant right there. The only problem this year is that this got a squirrel's attention, and a squirrel ate so many of my strawberries this year, which was a huge bummer. And then growing out here are hazelnuts. These are going to grow into tall hazelnut shrubs, which hopefully will give us nuts in the fall that we can enjoy. But I'm guessing the squirrels are also going to be back for these. There are a couple other plants in here I'm excited to see what will happen. Bush clover is another nitrogen fixer. In the shade of some of these trees, I've got some blackcurrant. I'm really excited to try those. This is lemon balm. That is the tiniest yellow squash I've ever seen. Got some bergamot, which literally smells just like Earl Grey tea. Oh, I gotta tell you about this guy. This is a pear tree that was like, I don't know, it was probably like 10 feet tall until earlier this year. I accidentally girdled it with a weed trimmer, which means I came in and I accidentally ripped the bark off all the way around the trunk. That is pretty much the most foolproof way to kill a tree. So I texted the guys at Brambleberry and I asked, what should I do? And he said, well, there's a chance that if you cut it off right below where the girdling happened, it may still regrow. And it regrew, guys. It's a miracle. This is like 3 feet tall now and shows no signs of slowing. So it may take another year before we get any fruit on this tree, but it is coming along. Back here are my massive, massive sunchokes. These are the Jerusalem artichokes. I'm gonna have to do a whole video about these because they are the coolest plants. You grow these little tubers in the ground that are super nutritious, super delicious. You can use them like potatoes. You can use them like, kind of like, you can pickle them and they taste really, really great. But I moved all of these from over here. I dug them up and then I replanted them here in a pile of compost, and I wasn't sure if they were gonna work, but man, they sure did. So in a few months, these will be beautiful little sunflowers all over the place. And then this winter, I can come up and dig up the tubers here and enjoy. Over here, I've got my secondary bed of tomatoes, 4 different kinds that are growing up against the fence. On the side of the house, there's a bed that gets a ton of sunlight, and that's where we're growing most of our tomatoes, but these guys are coming along fine. So here's the view from the corner of the garden that I have yet to really establish. you can see how much more work I have to do, but man, can you imagine the next few years, this whole spot is just gonna be covered with other plants and perennials and annuals mixed together and flowers, and it's just gonna be a paradise. It's gonna be so, so cool. So there you go. I still have absolutely no idea what I'm doing, but I am having a blast out here, and yeah, can't wait to see what this is gonna look like in 3 years, in 5 years, in 10 years. I'm telling you, it's gonna be wild. See you guys on the next video. Love you all. Bye.